Hi, kitty. Are you gonna help me with my video like old times? Are you gonna help? He's gonna help. So we're here to talk about Antorus, the Burning Throne, but unfortunately catless now because he heard something that might mean that he was getting fed and he left. But anyway, by the time you're watching this, Antorus will have been out for 1 entire week, and so I did get a chance to raid it on normal with my guild, which I thoroughly enjoyed. That was a very fun night. But that is all I've done is normal. I have not done past that, so all of my thoughts and feelings and opinions are on normal Antorus. Just keep that in mind, if you will. But before we get into like specifics on different bosses I liked and fights I didn't like and things like that, I just want to say, like, overall, I really enjoy this raid. I think the mechanics and the fight designs were done well. They're unique, they're interesting. The story that you get as you're going along is really fun. The look of the dungeon, or the look of the raid, changes as well. I mean, there's plenty of fell green. Don't worry. But it was fun. It was engaging. Those last 2 fights with Agrimar and Argus themselves were incredible. I thoroughly enjoyed both of those fights very much. And yeah, I just think, like, A+ Blizzard, good dungeon. I definitely liked it. I know some people are a little bit like, this is way too easy, but you gotta remember this was normal, and normal is meant for a certain type of player. And so for those of you who are raiding heroic regularly, and if you're very well geared from Tomb of Sargeras to begin with, normal's gonna be easy for you. I mean, you're still gonna get some item upgrades, and that will certainly help you on your heroic runs in Antorus going forward, but it's still going to be easy for you if you're a heroic raider. So I do think, like, once everyone's kind of used to it and better geared, Antorus is going to be fairly easy going through. But I don't know, I enjoyed it, and I don't actively seek out super hard content. I don't play Dark Souls for a reason. I don't want it to be like a total, like, you can stand in the mechanics and you're not gonna die type fight, where actually there were a couple of those in Antorus too. But for the most part, I felt like you need to do the mechanics to get it done, but if you do those, you're gonna be fine, and it's not gonna be that hard. So that's my overall impression. Let's talk about some of the specific bosses here. I'm actually going to pull up Antorus on my phone here because I do not have all the bosses' names memorized right now, and so 11 bosses in one night is a lot of bosses to keep in your head. So this will help me kind of refresh my memory and figure out what we're doing. Garathi Worldbreaker. It was unsurprisingly very much like Goroth in Tomb of Sargeras. I just felt like the mechanics are different, but I don't know, it just felt like a very similar fight. It's like a tank and spank. You just sit there and you nuke the boss down and you're done. Not hard at all. So yeah, Garathi is super easy, not very engaging, whatever. It's the first boss of the instance. It happens. The Hounds of Sargeras, I personally really enjoyed that fight, but that's mostly because I'm a destruction warlock and I cleave off of everything. So to have 2 bosses like equal distance apart and to have it very easy for me to put my havoc up and just cleave the shit out of those bosses was super fun, and I just really enjoyed that. So yeah. What's up next? Antoran High Command. I'm not gonna lie, I don't even remember that fight. Portal Keeper Hazabel, trying to remember. Oh, I remember this fight. So the Portal Keeper Hazabel fight it is actually pretty cool because she summons portals and your team actually has to go through those portals up to a different platform and kill like mini bosses there while half your raid is still down there dealing with her, and then you come back down and you do that multiple times during the fight. For normal, it was still fairly easy, but I think for heroic, that's going to be a really engaging and really fun fight. There's just the right amount of mechanics that are happening on the main platform as your team is up there tanking like mini bosses. There's mechanics happening with these mini bosses, and there's some cool like buff things where you have to take fire, I think it's like fire or something, from one platform to another platform to be able to see, which is sort of similar to the Illidan phase in KJ. Overall though, I really, really enjoyed this fight. I would love to see it on heroic because I do think it'll just take it to a new level, but at a basic level of what this fight is, it was really cool and really engaging, and it was definitely one of my favorites, even though I totally forgot the name of it at first. Eonar the Lifebinder. This fight hurts me because conceptually it seems like such a neat idea that you're not actually fighting a boss, you're saving her from this horde of Legion forces, which totally, like, lore-wise makes a ton of sense too, and that the story aspect of this fight is really cool. But in actuality and in practice, this fight is boring, and it drags on for long enough that it's like a boring and long fight on normal, so not great. And I can only imagine what Elefar is going to be like in that scenario. I hope heroic is more engaging, but I'm not hold my breath. It just had so much potential and definitely fell short. Imonar the Soul Hunter. Oh, he's the guy with the bridge. I remember now. This fight is kind of cool. It does involve some neat mechanics where you have to cross a bridge and you have to, like, avoid all these traps and things, and that was kind of neat. Yeah, I mean, it was fine. Like, not top of the line, not bottom of the barrel. It was an averagely good fight, I guess. All right, moving on. Kingaroth. Kingaroth was actually one of the fights we had some trouble with. We wiped once or twice before actually getting him down, and I don't know. I mean, it took me a little bit to, like, recall exactly what that fight was about, and it's kind of forgettable, which I think says a bit about it. Like, again, in theory, it could be a really cool fight, but on normal, it was just, like, once we figured out what the mechanics were and what we needed to do, it really wasn't that difficult, and I don't think it was really all that innovative. It's one of those types of fights where you fight the boss in phase 1, and then in phase 2, he goes into a different, like, state, and then you have to fight other things, and then he comes back out of whatever stasis or whatever he was in, and you fight him again. Like, we've seen that hundreds of times in WoW, so it was fine. All right, next up is Vera Matharis. Holy crap, this fight is boring. Like, it was so boring that I messed up the mechanics because I was, like, not focusing on what I was supposed to be doing. If you're a caster, you literally sit with your entire group, like, on each other's butts in one spot, and then you move over, and then you move back, and then you move over, and then you move back, and then you move over, and then you move back, and you just keep doing that until he's dead. Yeah, like, that's literally that simple. Next up was the Covenant of Shavar. This fight was cool. We almost wiped on this fight. Like, we had 4 people left trying to tank the Covenant of Shavar away from each other to get them down, because if they're next to each other, they get, like, one of those super crazy buffs where they buff each other and they can't be killed, basically. But throughout the fight, they've summoned these different ads, and depending on what the ads are, you have to do different things. I don't know, I liked it. It was kind of cool. One of them are these lines of, like, little ghost things, and you have to basically CC these ads so that you can find a path through them, because basically what they're going to do is they're in this big circle or square, and they move in on you, essentially, so you have to find your way out so you don't die. But yeah, I enjoyed that fight. That was pretty fun. Unique-ish, I guess. B+. All right, so that takes us to the very last 2 fights in the Seat of the Pantheon. The first one, of course, is Agramar fighting a Titan himself, a corrupted Titan. And I enjoyed it. It was a pretty fun fight. We did wipe on this one too, before getting it down. I think once you figure out the mechanics, it's going to be super easy on normal, because once we, like, knew what we needed to do and everyone in the raid group knew what they needed to do, it was a pretty simple fight to get him down. Again, it kind of had that, like, phase 1, phase 2, back to phase 1 type of thing, where the middle phase, the boss is, like, not killable and you have to kill ads type deal, which is not super engaging. Again, we've seen it a lot, including earlier in the raid. But something about, like, the fantasy of killing and defeating Agramar is just neat, and so I enjoyed that. Plus, it's red. This fight is red, not felt green, so that automatically bumps its score up. I do think that once you get up in the difficulties with this fight, it's going to be a lot more engaging and a lot more fun, so excited to see where that goes. And finally, that takes us to Argus the Unmaker, which hands down is one of the coolest raid fights I have ever ever seen and raided through. Like, full disclosure, I never raided through vanilla, and I didn't raid through BC, so like maybe there was some cool fights back there that I missed, but like I don't think so. This fight was just so fun, and again, the fantasy of like killing a world soul, how fucking cool is that? I think the things that made this fight so unique and interesting and fun to play was that it had distinct phases, and it wasn't the type of fight where you do one thing, then you do this thing, and then you go back to this thing. All four, I think there's 4 phases. All 4 phases were very unique, very different, and I loved it. It was really fun. And there's different types of mechanics that you're kind of pulling from all of the raid to try and do. So there's the type of mechanics where you really need to stack up. There's the type of mechanics where you're avoiding things. There's types of mechanics where you have to strategically place, like, you don't get like hit with things that leave puddles on the floor, like where you have to strategically place those down. But the coolest thing, the hands down coolest part of this fight is he actually kills you. And that's part of the fight. Your entire raid wipes. And then with the Pantheon, they bring the tree, this like tree of life into the fight, and it resurrects you. And then you are back into fighting. Then past then, anytime anyone dies, they can be resurrected by the tree. The tree doesn't have unlimited reses, but it makes dying and it makes death a part of the fight, which is totally new. I'm pretty sure we've never seen this before. Again, there's some raids I've missed over the years, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we've never seen this before. And the idea of incorporating death and dying into the raid, it was just something that I really enjoyed and thought was really neat, because not only does the tree bring you back to life so that if you do die, you're not like screwing over your raid and your people come back, but when you're dead and when you're a ghost, you're actually going around collecting these orbs that give your raid an entire raid-wide buff. So being dead actually becomes sort of strategic. I think at one point someone was like, I think I'm just gonna die so I can go get us this buff, which is never something we've ever said before in raid. It was really cool. It was also at the Pantheon. You're in a freaking Titan facility, so it's gorgeous. It's unlike anything we've seen before. Argus looks freaking sweet. There's Titans all around you, and I just loved it. It took us three shots getting this guy down on normal. I think it's going to be a shit show on LFR. Most actually the entire raid, I think it's going to be a shit show on LFR. Yes, it's easy, but there's certain mechanics that I just think it's going to be a rough time. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this raid. This is definitely like one of my, up there with my favorite raids of all time. This is up there with ICC for me, for sure. So if you haven't, for some reason, had a chance to check this out, I highly, highly recommend it. If you were geared for normal and a little above for Tomb of Sargeras, I think you're going to be fine. If you can do it without a full pug group, that would be ideal. But if not, LFR opens today, at least the first wing, so have fun with that. I actually think the first wing is going to be fine, but as you go through on LFR, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, Blizzard, I give you an A for this raid for sure. I love it. I just had a lot of fun. I think the reason this raid is so cool is it ties in not only to this expansion, but 15 years of storytelling, like from Warcraft 3. So you just feel awesome and powerful, and like you're really closing a story. You're putting an end to the Burning Legion, like literally. And then when you're done with all of it, you get an awesome cinematic, which at this point I'm sure you've all seen, but if you haven't, I'm not going to say anything because it was just incredible and it gave me all the feels. It still gives me the feels when I see it. So good job, Taryn Gregory and the cinematics team, because whew, wow, what an ending to Legion. Seriously. So those are my thoughts on Antorus, the Burning Throne. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too much. None of this was scripted. I just kind of sat down to talk to a camera, which seems fitting in the spirit of Vlogmas. I hope you're enjoying Vlogmas. I hope you enjoyed this video, especially if you are a WoW fan. If you're not subscribed to me already, please subscribe. I'm putting out videos every other day for Vlogmas this year, so I will be putting out another video by the time you see this on Thursday, so stay tuned for that. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you on Thursday. Bye-bye!